Support WrestleTalk, home of Luke Owen, whatever WrestleTalk is, and whoever Luke Owen is. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
Support WrestleTalk! WWE Versus Dave Meltzer. I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen. Welcome to WrestleTalk, not live. We had to pre-record it. This is going up. We recorded this a few hours ago. Please press the thumbs up button. Give us a subscribe. Leave us a comment with what you think of the Dave Meltzer WWE war, your theories on it, your thoughts on it. We'll try and get to as many comments as we can, answering those over the next few days. But most importantly, folks, today is Merch Day. WrestleTalk has tried once, twice, and now 3 times at merchandise, and this is the 3rd try. We've got a proper web shop. It's WrestleTalkMerch.com with the full trailer, the sort of advert we did. We put a lot of time and effort into that. I hope you enjoyed it. Simon's all housemate Simon's
all
vision.
housemate Simon.
Really, really good stuff there. So if you haven't seen that, go and watch the sort of short film / advert we made around sketch kind of thing about having merch.
Yeah, is the longer version to be released as well?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's before Simon's exported it. Everything else right now is done.
Okay.
It's done, but that one isn't.
Because we haven't seen Housemate Simon this morning yet.
Yes, he's watching a movie right now. But yeah, we've got a few different merchandise lines. We've got the WrestleTalk ones. So this is SWAF Nation. You've got Nikki Bella wearing the WrestleTalk logo. How smart there. We've got the Support WrestleTalk Classic. We've got the presenter one. So Luke doesn't have one.
Nope.
Missed the cutoff point for our suggestions. But
well, actually, really is because you said you're just never having merchandise because you're not over. Only Laurie is allowed merchandise.
Mate, Chopper's got merchandise. you need some merch. Chopper, me, Fake Adore, there's a Wonder Oddy one. But also, the one I'm most excited about is the one that's nothing to do with WrestleTalk. It's these, we've done foreign objects t-shirts. So it's just like a little bit here. I'm wearing one. These are barbed wire baseball bats. We've got sledgehammers, kendo sticks, steel chair, sort of a trash can, 8-bit
I like that
design.
trash can one. It's good.
But always get, it's like smart.
It's
it.
It's wrestling t-shirts for smart events.
For grown-ups.
Yeah, that's kind of how we sort of pitch this stuff. I think they're really, really nice. Amazing designs as well. By a fan.
Yes. That you can find him at Lucky Rabbit Rob. Lucky Rabbit Rob is his name. He's a tattoo artist up in Birmingham.
In Birmingham, yes.
And we will come and see you, Rob.
We're going.
We will eventually come in, and Luke and Laurie and Pete, not me, are going to get tattoos.
Yeah, we're going to get
designs.
We're going to get tattoos off the designs, as well as sort of like a way to try and advertise the merch and stuff. And Ollie Davis was like, no, I'm not taking part.
No, I'm not taking a bump. But thank you so much to Rob. He's, it's really nice to get people who are in the sort of, he's a SWAF Nation member. He's an ardent fan.
Yeah.
And we can all work together on it. And yeah, it's really, really nice.
It's been really nice how some of these things have happened. Like, Artman Lou was a fan and he's got involved in Crap Gimme Wrestling. Jade Starr, a fan, she then has done like music for our music video punishments as well as our podcast intro.
Chopper Pete,
Vinny Shui, who's now editing like the highlights videos and does your wrestle sketches. Yeah. It's really nice how we've been able to sort of like getting the community involved.
Well, they work for cheap. But yeah, WrestleTalkMerch.com
/free.
WrestleTalkMerch.com. Go over there. It's a really nice way to support us. And as of right now, I think for Black Friday, 20% off. Also, if you sign up to the newsletter thing, it's 10% off. But yes, okay, on to the main discussion point. WWE versus Dave Meltzer. Now, this has always been a thing. It's such a fascinating story, the Dave Meltzer WWE relationship, because back in the early 90s, Vince McMahon and Meltzer would talk on the phone.
And in the 80s.
They would go out on social occasions.
Yeah.
And then, like Vince sort of went down the Meltzer just became phased out. And over the years, sometimes Meltzer's in favor with WWE, and then other times is completely cut out. We are definitely in not just a cutout phase, but an actively aggressive approach from WWE personnel, potentially a company directive in itself, against Dave Meltzer. And it really started this month, in November, off the back of the Saudi Arabia stuff.
And you say it's that, like, this has been going on for some time. Like, I think the Pritchard podcast has, part of its design was to discredit Dave Meltzer as much as possible.
But that was in existence before Pritchard rejoined WWE. I think that was just Pritchard going into business for himself.
But it has become more, since he's joined WWE, it has become more of that. And like the whole FDM stuff, I think, was done. I mean, we talked about this on the show before, but like FDM was started as a joke.
That stands for F. Dave Meltzer.
Like it was started, like Dave and Bruce were friends. Like because again, like Dave Meltzer is very open about that. He talks to Bruce all the time, and there's photos of them since the podcast came out of them hanging out and being friends. And then at some point it just turned, and now it is a legit thing where he's like, no, F Dave Meltzer, I don't like him. I think it's because Meltzer kept calling him a con man.
Yeah,
Dave did himself no favors.
Yeah, it's so Dave Meltzer, just to sort of, if you're not aware, was that a passing wind?
It's this chair keeps touching this, and it makes fart sounds. Someone brought this up on a podcast that we did, where it's like, did someone fart on the microphone? And I was like, pretty sure we didn't. I went back and listened. I was like, that well sounds like a fart though.
Did you just guff at the name Dave Meltzer, the most respected wrestling sports journalist of all time? So yeah, a lot of people, off the back of this, and now Dave Meltzer's name is so prominent because, you know, a lot of YouTubers like us and podcasts reference his reports, because really, I would say Wade Keller, Mike Johnson, Dave Meltzer, they're the three.
Yeah.
You know, and Sean Ross Sapp has like really worked his way up there in terms of reliability. Yeah. But in terms of the old guard, guys who have been around for decades, it's PW Insider, Pro Wrestling Torch, Wrestling Observer Radio.
Completely.
Or Wrestling Observer Newsletter. And I guess you can, F4W Online is linked in with that. They are the most reliable, long-running wrestling news sites in the world.
Yes, correct.
And and of those, I would say Dave Meltzer has the worst track record, just because he reports a lot more stuff. Mm-hmm. Mike Johnson really doesn't report anything until he's very clear and signed off with multiple sources. And Wade Keller hardly reports anything, I think, because he waits until he's got. Yeah, I
think Wade's whole point is that he tends not to report things unless he's got, like, if he's first. Then he'll do it. But if he's second, then he just tends to take a step back, or like, well, I don't need to approach that story because someone else has already got it. But he was the guy that reported that Dean Ambrose was going.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know, and that obviously turned out to be a big, and was like, you know, one of the biggest stories of this year. And that was Keller. And that was the first time we've had Keller's name come up in a long old time.
But when it comes up, you're like, well, that's definitely true.
Yeah,
really, because he's got such a high track record. With Meltzer, I think because he does 3 to 4 podcasts a week, he's on live shows, he's the most, like, he has the most visibility on him. He writes 20,000 words a week for his newsletter. Yeah,
he was one of the few people who was working on Thanksgiving to get the newsletter up this week.
And when you put out that much content, I think and when other people sort of report what he has speculated as Dave Meltzer has reported, when he has never done such a thing.
That's a big problem.
I think that muddies a lot of people's view of Meltzer. But like, for my money, Dave Meltzer is, you know, one of the most trustworthy. And really, if you listen to him on a daily basis, like I do, like, honourable. Yeah. He has a code of honour where even if he's close friends with someone, they do something wrong in terms of wrestling booking on the creative side, or, you know, like on a more business moral standpoint, he'll call them out for it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like Bruce Pritchard, he called him a con man there. And he's lost relationships through that honourability.
And the same with Eric Bischoff. Him and Bischoff used to call and speak all the time, but Bischoff's podcast, again, feels like it is, I need to discredit Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez because they spent the last 20 years saying Bischoff killed WCW. Not effectively using those words, because they have always said it was the Time Warner merger that killed WCW. Yeah. But it was a dying brand. And I think Bischoff has always taken that very personally. So he was always trying to be like, no, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know anything. They weren't there. They don't know any of the inside track. And that's why, you know, Mabel was the third man, is like Bischoff's big smoking gun to be like, hey, see, he doesn't know anything. And that has been just used as ammunition against Meltzer, even though Meltzer reported it was Hogan. A, the week before, B, in that same newsletter, and C, the week after. But there was a conversation about Mabel being the third man for the NWO, and Kevin Nash has corroborated that.
Yeah.
But Bischoff has said, nope, third man, that's complete nonsense. Dave Meltzer knows nothing. And because Conrad didn't do either side of it, That's the narrative. Dave Meltzer reported that it was Mabel, not Hogan.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people trying to discredit Meltzer when really, if you dive into it, it's not clear cut in that way, and usually it goes in Meltzer's favor if you read what he's written.
Yeah, but I also think that, like, 'cause we don't want this to sound too one-sided.
No.
I think Meltzer can be very easily led at times. Like, when you go back and read some of those observers, it is clear that one of his sources is Paul Heyman, because a lot of stuff is very favorable to ECW and WWF poaching talent from ECW and stuff, even though Paul was working with Vince, but Paul was leading the narrative at times. So while the reporting is correct, the wording of it might have been more in favor of Heyman than it was of Vince.
Sure. Yeah, so this is really, like you said, it has been bubbling for a while with Bischoff and Pritchard, but really at the start of this month, off the back of Saudi Arabia, is when you've seen WWE talent actively call out Meltzer on social media. The first instance was for the report that Seth Rollins had done a rah-rah speech, and it went down really, like, a bit lamely, a bit maybe not cool in the locker room on that first Raw after the Saudi Arabian travel incident, where a lot of the talent were upset that Meltzer reported on. But Meltzer was never making the sort of, was it Hugo Savinovich claims?
Name.
Yeah, where it was like, it was that they owed him $500 million and stuff. Like, that was the hyperbole story. Meltzer was actually quite restrained, I would say, in his reporting. But Seth tweeted, Dave Meltzer, you're at best a purveyor of misinformation, or at worst an outright vindictive liar. I hope it's the former, #rah-rah, referencing that report.
Yeah. So I've given my conspiracy theory on this, which was Meltzer was reporting text that he was getting from friends of his, and we know that some of those wrestlers that were there are friends of his.
And I think Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson.
That's the two names I was thinking. Yeah. And it's not like they themselves weren't saying things online about how we're stuck here and we're scared. And their family was saying, yeah, they're stuck there and we're scared. You know, Carl Anderson's wife was like, never again. Like, you're never going back. And like, I've got to go back. I've got to buy us a third pool. And, you know, they were making all these sorts of like jokes about stuff. But it was a serious situation. And Meltzer was just reporting what he was, you know, getting texts about. And because WWE wanted that story to go away, I think they fed him that Seth Rollins rah-rah speech story. Meltzer didn't corroborate with anyone else, reported it, so they could instantly go, ha, gotcha. You were wrong on that one. You're a vindictive liar or a purveyor of misinformation, which sounds like it was written by a WWE writer.
Yes.
And Dave, you know, himself said, I'm sorry, I misreported on this. A source told me that was what the case was. And it turns out it wasn't. I've looked into it more. That meeting didn't take place.
Yeah. So Seth followed that up with, no, Dave, my problem is that you're spreading complete lies. I gave no speech. I said nothing before, during, or after the meeting, so either you or your source is full of it. Either way, it's a bold-faced lie, and I kindly ask you to quit pushing it. And Meltzer said, very sorry on this. I don't want to spread misinformation. So he retracted that.
Yeah.
And, you know, put a statement up on F4W Online retracting it and everything. So it's, yeah, even if Meltzer wasn't fed that, maybe Seth did give a version of it, or maybe one of the talent just wanted to bury Seth because they were annoyed.
Yeah.
And Meltzer still reported it. The fact that a WWE talent as high profile as Seth Rollins called out Dave Meltzer, which is so unlike WWE historically, to sort of even name drop or reference people that don't fit their narrative. It seems to me like they're deflecting the story of this Saudi Arabia controversy to make it more about Meltzer.
That's exactly it, because as soon as you discredit that one story, you can discredit everything else.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean, and it's pure tinfoil hat speculation. But I do believe that's the case. And I would not put it past this company to have done that.
And just like maybe like a thing backstage. Oh, if you see any Dave Meltzer tweets or anything and you think you can have a go at him, please do.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. Maybe it's as informal as that. You know, if you can, have a pop at Meltzer on Twitter. And then because it's a corporate climate or a workplace climate where everyone wants to get political favor with management, of course they're going to be doing the little digs.
Perhaps I'd also like to think that it was a directive from someone, because I'd hate to think that Seth Rollins, in his own mind, wrote "the purveyor of misinformation" and thought, that's a thing I need to say. That's a tweet.
It's weird because the week before that was when it was Tony Khan who called Jon Moxley a purveyor of violence.
Yeah,
and we all said that's a stupid way to say something.
Stupid way to phrase something.
It feels very fabricated, and that was our thoughts. We've said those thoughts before on that situation. Interestingly, what's come out since is kind of more stuff that could support that idea. And the most recent one is Corey Graves. He tweeted in reference to Mauro Ranallo over the weekend, implying that Ranallo talks so much that you can't hear Nigel McGuinness or Beth Phoenix on commentary either.
Yes, which Nigel took very badly.
Mauro took.
Mauro Ranallo took very, very poorly. He's got a history with this company of, and he's very on the record with his sort of mental health and his bipolar and things like that. He's got fantastic documentaries out and everything about it. He took his comments very badly. The latest report on that is that he's in bad shape, and it's like a day-by-day thing, that he didn't come to Survivor Series, and they were expecting him to be there at NXT. It's what Meltzer said on Monday. So he is expected to be there, but if he's not, that's when it becomes a story. And he wasn't there on Wednesday. Instead, Tom Phillips filled in for him.
Now, to argue Corey's case, he said that he tweeted that because he could work it into the Survivor Series commentary as sort of a, because you get the beef between brands. NXT, Mauro, Corey.
I think that came after the fact.
Look, let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely right. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, so that's I can totally see that working, especially with Corey's previous of that weird angle he worked with Booker T that did nothing.
Which again, I think was designed to work Meltzer, and it didn't. It just worked us.
Yeah.
But he could still go, I worked you all. To what end?
Yeah, so I can totally see that Corey's the guy backstage who's like, let's work the fans, but then kind of accidentally
misses the point.
It doesn't work, and unfortunately has some quite harmful consequences to someone who's in a very sensitive position. Now, after that, I would. If I had caused that level, I would apologize and take down the tweet and just been like, backstage, I'm so sorry, man, I didn't mean that. And that might have happened backstage, but the tweet still remains. And rather than kind of, take the nicer route around it, he also has just started going over after Dave Meltzer, who maybe has been talking to Mauro, definitely has been talking to mutual friends like Frank Shamrock,
who is Mauro's manager.
Yeah,
and Meltzer's got a long-standing relationship with Frank Shamrock, because Frank Shamrock. And this is why the Corey tweet was so stupid, because A, your tweet still remains, and B, Frank Shamrock is backing up this story, who's best friends with Mauro Ranallo. So it's not like it's just Dave Meltzer being like, I have made this story up. Frank Shamrock's there going no, this is the case.
So Graves tweeted, the day after, Dave Meltzer, you uninformed, false narrative pushing liar. My phone works. You're a journalist, right? You can find my number. Implying that if you really wanted to do a good job on this story, you would contact me as well to get a statement from my side. And that's true.
It's true.
If Meltzer could have reached out to Graves, it sounds like he hasn't.
No.
And really,
But I don't think Meltzer often does.
No, yeah, and that is probably a downfall.
It totally is.
Some of Sean Ross Sapp's best work, who does Fightful, he gets he contacts everyone.
Yeah.
If someone's name is brought up in a story, he contacts them for comment and he publishes the comment. So you get a really three-dimensional view of the story.
He's really, really good.
As opposed to just one source driving the narrative.
Got to give a shout out to Kristen Ashley of Fightful, because she was the one who did that story, or she kind of broke that news that the WWE dressmaker that tweeted that was going to be a new character debuting on SmackDown for and there is a new character debuting at Firefly Funhouse, but she was like, I've made the dress for it and it's going to be for Liv Morgan or something along those lines. And Kristen Ashley kind of broke it, she found out that it was a catfish thing, and her Twitter thread about that and all the work that she did to break that story down is absolutely brilliant. It's really, really good journalistic work, which is not really seen in the wrestling world. It's where I think Sean Ross Sapp's kind of changed the game a little bit.
Yeah, he's definitely sort of the leader of the new wrestling media.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you had that Graves tweet, and Meltzer and loads of people have jumped in on this. Brian Alvarez saying, what are you talking about, Graves? Like, this is serious. Why are you pushing the narrative that we're lying? Quite obviously not. And so there is a guy in this who's feeling like crap right now, and it's pretty serious. It sounds like so. Yeah. Whatever.
And Corey Graves then apologized on after the Bell End podcast, saying that he was sorry, he didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, which then just really completely discredits anything he was trying to do to attack Meltzer.
Yeah, and just because we'll wrap this up shortly, and then last week Dave Meltzer said a comment on one of his podcasts that Mean Gene Okerlund is one of the best backstage interviewers of all time. No argument there. We often say that the WWE backstage interviewers are unfortunately produced to be very robotic and lacking of character.
It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's the way they're produced. You're not, the directive is, do not have a personality because the wrestler wants to we want to get the wrestler over, not you.
And Okerlund would get over the wrestler more with his own personality.
Exactly.
And Meltzer said it's a real shame that someone like that couldn't do that job now. Speaking specifically of Mean Gene, because he's 70, 75,
yep.
Even though he's probably still one of the best people for that role because he's not young and cute. And that's Meltzer critiquing WWE for choosing young, cute women, mostly, to do their backstage roles. I think that's very clear over the course of the last decade.
Yeah.
And then someone tweeted Charlie Caruso that. What do you think? And some sites picked it up as, sort of spun it, saying Meltzer said that Charlie Caruso has only got a job because she's young and cute.
Yeah.
Which is a reading of that of what he said. But I think to say that would be disingenuous. That was not the intent. And Charlie Caruso tweeted in response to that story, "I feel very bad for Marianne."
Yeah.
Marianne is Dave Meltzer's wife. I listen to the Wrestling Observer Radio 4 or 5 times a week. Those are hour-and-a-half long episodes for years. I don't know the name of his wife. I don't know the name of his kids.
No, me neither.
And I don't know many people who do know, who could just say that off the top of their head.
Yeah.
So either Charlie Caruso has Googled Dave Meltzer's wife's name to tweet that out, or someone's helped her out with a tweet there.
Purveyor of misinformation.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we were going to talk a bit about Ryan Satin.
And his dreadful interview that he had with Wrestling Inc.
It's just to wrap this up, on the flip side of this, of WWE trying to control the wrestling media, which is something historically that they can't do because it's in the very nature. Imagine if we were a WWE endorsed show.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work. Or if we're an AEW endorsed show, it would just completely destroy our credibility. The little that remains. and Ryan Satin, Pro Wrestling Sheet, I would have put him in the Fightful bracket before, but now he appears on WWE Backstage. Sure, Fox pays the paychecks, but he's done this interview with Wrestling Inc.'s podcast where he said that they asked, well, why haven't you approached the Jordan Miles controversy, the Saudi Arabia controversy, the Mauro Ranallo controversy in any of the episodes? And he said, I'm not the producer of the show, so I don't make those decisions. I'm very low on the totem pole in terms of what's going to be discussed. I don't think they want me there for opinions as they want me there to break news.
I like this bit when it said, when it comes to negative stories, I believe there will be times when I have to talk about negative things. It's just we're in week 2 and nothing super negative has happened.
You have a mental health case.
Yeah, and Jordan
literally 2 days previously.
Racism accusations against a company, not persons, a company as a whole, and nothing super negative has happened while backstage has been in. Absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And then I point this out in my news. He contradicts himself in the exact same interview where he says, I thought we should have done the Saudi Arabia thing. I suggested we did the Saudi Arabia thing, but they said, no, the running order's already done. So either nothing serious has happened that you haven't had to talk about, or something super serious has happened that you did want to talk about.
Yeah. So I think we can trust Ryan Satin and Pro Wrestling Sheet now for contract, 5-year contracts being signed because WWE will give it to him to break, and that's real. But anything remotely critical of the company, I think, will disappear from that site very quickly. But yeah, it's just an example of how WWE are trying to sort of influence the wrestling media. They always have done. It's come to the fore this November because they've had a ton of bad stuff, and then also tried to put on their own show that is wrestling media. That's all just a puff piece, really.
Yeah.
Right, should we get in some crap? Let us know your thoughts, by the way. We're not saying ours is the definitive take.
Absolutely not.
And we're perfectly aware that there are a lot of people who do not like Dave Meltzer. Please let us know your thoughts, and we'll try and get to them in the comments.
Because we went slightly long on that topic, I didn't think we knew we were going to talk about it for that long.
There's a lot to dive into.
And we've got a lot of stuff that we need to record today. We've got some Patreon podcasts to do. We've got some stuff on Screenstalker to do. So we're going to skip crap gimmicks for this week. We're going to go straight into the mailbag. If you want to send a question to the mailbag, all you've got to do is become one of our pledge hammers on Patreon at any dollar amount and leave a comment in the community tab. Do not email me. I will just lose it. This comes in from Lorenzo Haynes, who said, my question is for Luke. Please tell me why you did research on Wrestle League when you were announced the winner. Why did you care who did the punishment? What made you look into it so much? I didn't look into it. I was so someone left a comment on one of our Patreon posts that said the bet was wrong. Like, you thought the bet was about this. And then someone emailed me, Happenable. I said this in the thing. Happenable emailed me to be like, here's what happened. Here's the video where you made the bet. Here's the video where you said the bet was wrong. And this is here's where things have gone a bit nipples north. And I was like, oh, because really what happened was we made the bet, forgot what the bet was, and then when the Lacey Evans-Natalya match got announced for whichever show it was, Extreme Rules or something, someone tweeted me and said, you won the bet. And I was like, oh, so it was about that. Okay, well, that makes sense then. So that's when I said, and that's when I texted the WhatsApp group going like, haha, I won the bet.
We've got goldfish brains. We don't remember, unless it's like backstage wrestling news. I don't remember anything.
Yeah. So then our WrestleTalk chat was just like, yeah, that was the bet. And that just became, and until Happenable, I said, no, that wasn't the bet at all. And I was like, oh, that was the bet.
If we've learned anything, folks, it's that we will not do bets like that, because Laurie was also very annoyed that he would have lost because of something he had no control over.
Indeed. This comes in from Chris Thorne. Again, it's the question of like, who's the right person to take the belt off of Jericho? I feel like we get this every week, but yeah. I think it's too early to be having these sorts of discussions.
I think it's Omega. Personally.
Yeah, I think it's Omega as well. Jobber JJ said, hello, WrestleTalk boys in the SWAF Nation. As the decade closes out, my question to you is, what is your high point as a wrestling fan and low point of the decade? Have yourself a what wonderful day.
Well, decade's a long time.
It is.
And really, it's in the same bit.
It's Pipe Bomb and...
It's Pipe Bomb and Nexus.
Yeah.
Nexus being the low point when they were sort of buried, and Pipe Bomb Bring Me Back.
So yeah, I'd say Nexus was the low point, but I'd actually say that Pipe Bomb, Money in the Bank are like super high points, and then a month later he came crashing down, because that's when you realized, this isn't going to be the story we all thought it was, because it was like when CM Punk crashed Comic-Con to like cut that promo, and you're like, oh my god, this is going to run for months, this might be a year-long thing, this is going to be the greatest story ever. And then he was just back like 2 weeks later and was just like, now we're having a champion versus champion match, and then I'm not going to be champion.
Yeah. It wasn't as good, but I was one back by that point. I mean, the only other thing, and I really think it is genuinely this bad, is that Hell in a Cell ending with Seth Rollins and The Fiend. I genuinely think that is a decade low. And that's not just me, because it's so fresh in our memories, being just 2 months ago. I think it's genuinely that bad.
Yeah. Josh Hood says, given WrestleTalk's connection to the great man himself, can it be an ongoing project to have Keith Lee wrestle a show in Keighley, West Yorkshire? I imagine upon his arrival, he will automatically be made mayor, and everyone can bask in his glory. Hashtag Keith Lee in Keighley.
I like that. I don't think it's something we should put our promotional power behind. I think there's better things we can do. But I do like the pun play.
Yeah.
I mean, if he shows up anywhere, Keith Lee, and says, I'm your mayor now, I think he is the mayor.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing you can do to stop him. He'll shoulder barge you.
John T. Evans. Hey guys, love all the work you do. Sorry about the paragraph. When y'all review AEW, there's a fair bit of fair criticism on how some of the matches don't have story behind them, particularly with the women's division. Back when Sasha Banks was potentially leaving WWE, y'all spoke about how AEW didn't have any women with her drawing power. I think they're doing this to get the audience familiar with lesser known talent. My question is, if that is their plan, how long will it be before we start seeing quality storylines across the show? So my answer to that would be is that you can get people engaged with lesser known talents by giving them storylines.
Yeah, totally. That's what the Attitude Era did for the mid-card. They gave everyone stories, and that's why people like Val Venus was so over.
Yeah, and D'Lo Brown. That's why people remember them, because they were given stuff to do. The women in AEW at the moment just have matches, and then that's it.
Steve Blackman.
Yeah.
He was a huge mid-carder because he had a string of really good stories.
Not every story is going to work, and not everyone's going to get over from those stories. Steve Blackman didn't get over from the story that they gave him, but they tried. You always got
over with me.
Craig Thomas, hi guys, just wondered what you've got planned for the channel over Christmas.
A lot of videos.
Oh yeah, a lot of videos.
Yeah, we've got like a lot of sort of listy things. Got the Christmas special as always.
Yeah, the usual like end of year type lists and stuff. We did put out on Twitter about like people to suggest their matches of the decade. I thought we might do something along those lines. We get some user feedback. We've also got the our 2020 predictions. Lots of stuff going up. Lots of stuff going up. That guy who wants to support. I think we can all agree that Jericho shouldn't lose the title anytime soon and keep being on Le Champion. And when he does lose it, it should be on a pay-per-view that'll mean something. So it means he'll probably be champion at least 2020. And since Jericho will appear at Wrestle Kingdom versus Tanahashi, do you think there's a chance he will be there with the AEW belt? Thank you and have a great conversation. Always look on the bright side of life.
Sing it, Luke, it says.
Always look on the bright side of life.
But the Jericho, it's going to be an awkward one because that New Japan AEW relationship, I thought would thaw by now, but really seems to have gotten more vitriolic, if anything. So I don't think he will appear with the AEW title, and I don't know how he's not going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Tanahashi. Tanahashi hasn't got any championship belts. I think Jericho wins. But maybe the AEW just isn't mentioned, which would be such an elephant in the room.
Totally. Abnahav says, hey guys, not going to name everyone, there's too many of you. Do you think AEW has dropped the ball with the win-loss records? A full year, it was dropped for the women's division, and after this week, seeing Scorpio Sky getting an opportunity before Pac and the next challenger being teased as Mox, do you think that AEW is going away from the win-loss record? Having storylines makes sense, but then the loss record doesn't have a great day.
No, the women's one doesn't make sense. You're right. They dropped the ball there. But the Sky stuff, they really explained and have actually made part of the story with the wins-loss record that Pac really should be next in line. But Jericho agreed to a match with Sky because Sky pinned the champion in a tag match and also goaded him into accepting one. So, no, I don't think they are. In fact, I really like... When it first started, I was a little bit concerned about, are we just going to see a load of people with undefeated streaks? And then Pac was sort of the only remaining one, and he's lost twice now. And I thought, that's almost taken the pressure off.
Yeah.
Now everyone's got a few losses. We know they're going to reset at the end of the season. I think they're doing it smartly.
Flev, Doran, hello to everyone from WrestleTalk. I've missed a few NXT rambles, sorry. So my question is, and I don't know if this has been brought up before, but I was thinking of the Undisputed Era and their 2019 prophecy to hold all the gold by the end of the year. Does that also include the new NXT Cruiserweight Championship? Because technically, an NXT branded championship. I feel like they are just omitting this fact because it wasn't in their original plans for 205 to get absorbed into NXT. Do you think they'll do something about that? I'd say probably no.
Well, yeah, an NXT UK title as well, which occasionally pops over, and the NXT UK tag titles. I think they're the Triple H verse, but they're not NXT so specific.
Yeah.
Plus, did they say we're going to have all the gold in NXT, or did they say all of us will have gold?
Well, the Undisputed Era will be draped in gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they are.
Yeah.
Each one of them has a title.
Skeletor says, I won't do the whole voice. Luke, Ollie, Laurie, Pete, Dave, and that dastardly heel, Randy, Andy Datson. I'm so proud to finally be a Pledgehammer. I just wanted to ask a question and see what your opinions are on this. I've been watching WWE for 20 years. I was raised on the Attitude Era, and my dad was a massive fan, which obviously got me intrigued. It had its moments where I've wanted to stop watching, but I just can't do it. NXT came along, and that became my favourite show from WWE without a doubt. Now we're in an era where we have two incredible shows in AEW and NXT. Now the important part. Due to financial issues, I have never, ever been to a live wrestling event. Now that has finally changed, I want my first one to be a big deal. Wow. Do I wait for AEW to come to the UK and go to their show, Or do I go to a live TV taping of Raw or SmackDown? Much love to you boys, and Val, she's the best. And also thank you for live streaming your reactions to WWE last weekend. Had a lovely time with the boys. Skeletor.
Lovely time with the boys. Nice to see you, Skeletor. You've popped up a lot in the last week or so, so it's nice to have you as a Patreon as well. I mean, controversially, I'm going to say none of the above. I'm going to say go to an indie show.
Yeah.
Go to a Progress, go to a Rev Pro, go to a WrestleGate, go to an NGW. I don't know where you're based, but find the best. But North Wrestling, I think, is really big.
Yeah, it's got big up north.
Yeah. Riptide down in Brighton. There are so many still, and it's amazing considering what WWE have done to the independent scene and just scooping up all the talent. Britain still has a great... If you're in Ireland, OTT.
Yeah.
Britain still has a fantastic independent wrestling scene. And I don't think AEW or NXT will come over here for a while. Go to a big December show. A lot of those promotions will have big December shows. You should go to one of those.
But if you did want to pick between those two, I would probably say the AEW one, because that's likely going to be a pay-per-view. If that's to be believed. And if it is a pay-per-view, then 100% I'd say go to a pay-per-view. Raw and SmackDown tapings, the last Raw taping we went to, I was bored to tears. Not just because it wasn't a particularly good show. It's a long, tedious experience because you've also got to wait during the ad breaks, and it's just not fun.
It's WWE produced their TV for TV, not for the live audience.
Yeah.
I would say that's something Dynamite does very well. They do it for both. So go to a house show if you.
That's what I was going to say. If you do want to go to a WWE show, go to a house show because they're much better. Mohammed, hi everyone. How are y'all doing at Wrestle League this weekend? Smiley emoji. Got everything right apart from Gaza and Strong somehow. Question.
Oh, well done.
Who should Brock's next opponent be and when? I'd love to see Owens versus Brock at the Royal Rumble.
Oh, that's a really good shout. Actually, he kind of is the top baby face on Raw now as well.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Owens versus.
That's a real clash,
Lesnar.
which I think is really interesting.
I haven't even thought of that as a match.
That's the thing. I think because like Lesnar all year long has just been Rollins.
Yeah.
And Raw has been pushed all around Rollins throughout 2019. It is just like, man, who is another contender for Lesnar? But yeah, Owens is such a good shout.
It's a great shout.
And Rusev after last week's, I think that really massively got him over. That's
not a bad shout either, yeah. And the Royal Rumble's the perfect time you can do that.
Completely.
I mean, Kevin Owens, surely you saved that match for Fastlane. That's where Owens has the big matches.
And lastly, Lorenzo says, to Luke, can you tell me step by step how you make your tea? Personally...
Loads of milk.
Don't get me
Flood it with milk.
No. Personally, I just put some boiling water in a cup with the tea bag and sugar. I've been watching a UK series called The Circle, and they were talking about never put the milk in first, and I'm so confused. We'll do the second question. Yeah. So, tea bag in, boiling water, squeeze out that tea bag, just push that tea bag.
Do that.
You get all the tea out. Get all the tea flavour.
No. You brew over time. You know how long it makes me to make tea? I just leave it in there for 5 minutes. That's the optimum time. If you squeeze it, you get the bitterness out.
That's what I
and it becomes too bitter.
But that's how I make all your teas as well. You squeeze out that bag, squeeze it out, get all that tea flavour. Or, as you said, if you've got time, let it brew, but let it brew and brew and brew. Get all that good teeness out of it. And then just a tiny dash of milk. Tiniest of tiny dashes.
What kind of milk?
Soy milk is delightful in a cup of tea. Oat milk is very, very good in a cup of tea.
Oat milk's the one.
Yeah. And if you are a dairy drinker, semi-skimmed, I think is probably the optimal.
You reckon?
I mean, I don't like whole milk.
No?
Oh, blue milk? Oh God, no. I don't like dairy for starters.
Okay.
But like cream is like full cream is gross.
Oh wow.
I can't eat butter. Butter's disgusting.
Oh my God, I didn't know this.
That's just a personal thing. So
cancel all that butter I got you for Christmas.
Tiniest dash of milk, little stir, and away you go. No sugar. I'm not a child. And lastly, to Ollie, do you prefer your wrestling as realistic as possible, or are you more lenient?
Totally more lenient, I would say. I like all the styles of wrestling. There's no styles of... Are there any styles of wrestling that you don't like? I mean, like I like hardcore. I like lucha. I love comedy.
Yeah.
I love strong style. I love sports entertainment. You know, Ronda Rousey, Triple H, Stephanie Kurt, Miz Dad Miz,
so
and Shane.
Yep.
Love all those matches.
Yeah, do you know what, you asked me then, is there any style of wrestling you don't like? And I was thinking, like, there must be one. And I was thinking back to it, like thinking of all the shows that I've been to and there's various styles. There's never been a match style that started and we're like, I'm not going to be into this.
Mat-based wrestling, MMA style wrestling, submission-based wrestling. Love it all.
Yeah.
Variety, I think, is the spice.
Absolutely.
You can't have a card of submission stuff unless you're super, super into that. I'd get bored. I once tried to watch 6 Zack Sabre Jr. matches in a row.
We did that, didn't we? Yeah. We did the New Japan Cup.
And I was like, I can't. I love Zack Sabre Jr., but this isn't working.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing, unless you're super into it, I think. There are bad,
yes.
That's not to say I love any kind of those wrestlings. I love that wrestling when it's done right, because any of those styles can be awful if you do it wrong.
There is one match type that I specifically just hate.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Blindfold match.
So isn't there a famous Jake the Snake, Rick Rude one that is actually really good?
That might be a rare example. I'd also say
the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, and there was the Jamie Noble Nydia one from No Way Out 2004. But for me, that's not a blindfold match. That's a comedy match.
Yes, yeah.
That just happens to have blindfolds on it. But I'm thinking like Chris Harris versus James Storm in TNA in a blindfold match. I just think it is a proper 80s wrestling trope. So it's likely going to be an AEW.
I was going to say, that'll be Cody's next big pay-per-view match. MJF versus Cody.
My dad loved him. But I've very rarely seen a blindfold match where I've like, that was well worth putting on pay-per-view.
I would argue that's more of a gimmick as opposed to a style.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you to nitpick my state there, and you're absolutely right to do so. It is a gimmick, but I do hate that gimmick.
A stipulation, yeah. Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for joining us. Please do go over to WrestleTalkMerch.com. The link's in the video description below. Watch the lovely advert trailer we made for it. It's really funny. We're really proud of it. And buy maybe a Foreign Object shirt, a WrestleTalk shirt, a presenter shirt. All of it helps us out. And, it's Black Friday as well. Go consumerism crazy. 'Tis the season for capitalism. Bare naked profit margins, yes. Help support the channel.
Money.
But for now, please click the videos that have just appeared on the desk to catch up with the latest awesome Wrestle Talk things, and this button right here, which will make you a pledge hammer on Patreon, where you will get Ramble Club, Wrestle Talk After Dark, whatever it's called now, where me, Luke, and Laurie are going to get drunk right now and talk about stuff.
Random stuff suggested by you. We've actually got that liquor or that spirit that Marcel Jura sent across from Germany that we're going to drink today that I am not looking forward to because it is green.
I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.